This is the Flock and Hive podcast. I'm Helena Nicklin, and here is my full conversation with graphologist Emma Bache. Emma Bache, it's wonderful to be speaking to you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Not at all. It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, let's just start at the very beginning. So, in layman's terms, what is graphology?
Well, graphology is the art of analysing somebody's personality through their handwriting. So that's basically what it is. And by looking at somebody's handwriting, I can see many, if not all, the qualities of the personality and the character of that person at the time that they did the writing. If that makes sense.
Oh my goodness. So how do you know that it's correct? You know what I mean?
Because I have been doing this for 37 years and I trained.
Tell us about your story. How on earth did you get into this?
Well, I was at the beginning of my adulthood, I suppose. I was working for an investment company, and I realised fairly early on, as did everybody else, that I was unsuited to that, as I used to get sort of checks, because it was checks in those days, you know, caught in a photocopier sometimes, and they were worth £100,000 and things. It was just a complete nightmare. So I was hopeless really at it. And then a friend of mine said, why don't you come along to a weekend workshop in London on graphology? Now, I did know what graphology was, but I didn't know what it entailed. So I did it, loved it, and I thought I'd like to properly train in this. So I did. So I did a 3-year training, which in those days consisted of doing a correspondence course and also going to classes. I mean, I'm sure it's much easier to do it these days, you know, as opposed to 100 years ago. Anyway, I enjoyed the training, and then I started off working for events companies. So I was slightly thrown in at the deep end, I suppose, but I could do it. And then I started to work and write for the newspapers and magazines, analysing the famous and infamous. And then I started to use it to help companies with recruitment and restructuring. And I still work for the press and media, and I also do a lot of events and talks and keynote speeches and things. So my career is quite varied, which I enjoy, really.
You mentioned recruitment there. So this is something that I think most people won't even know that is being checked. And I don't know how widespread it is to bring in a graphologist, but obviously you can tell a lot by someone. I've seen you mention in the past, you can tell if someone's got an alcohol problem, and you can see, and I imagine,
obviously, yes, I can. I mean, I can tell the difference between whether somebody's had a glass of wine, which isn't ideal actually for analysis, but you know, I can do that, or somebody's got a addiction problem. And you know, a glass of wine is probably not a problem for somebody, whatever the company they're going to join. But if they're an addict of any sort, it could be a problem, you know.
Well, of course, but I mean, what does that look like? Can you explain it?
Well, if it was that easy, then I'd be. No, I mean, it's more than one. It's more than one aspect, but it would show. It would show various signs. I mean, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at the size, the spacing, the pressure, the size of the, you know, the different zones of the writing, the absolute every single little nuance of the writing I'm looking at, and no nuance on its own means anything. So it's looked at holistically. So, wow. You know, so when somebody says to me, oh, what does a left slant mean? Does that mean I'm a psycho? It doesn't mean anything on its own.
Right. Okay. So there is nothing on its own. You're looking at like personality traits mostly. I imagine. So
I am. I mean, I can tell, you know, mood and obviously physical and emotional health. I don't mention physical health because I'm not medically qualified. Although, on the other hand, I have worked for the Wolfson Institute, which looks into medical research. I've helped with early signs of Parkinson's, which is, they know, fine motor coordination is often the first sign of something being not right.
Yeah, I was going to ask how. Yeah, but I guess with something like that, by the tremors or something really, really small.
Yeah, and there are other signs for that. But I mean, it's not normally a route that I'd go down because I'm not qualified to do that. But it's quite interesting for me to work for a health sort of institute because I can do something which I wouldn't normally do, which I enjoy.
Yeah, and does that include mental health as well?
Well, mental, I mean, there's an awful lot of talk, obviously, about mental health. I mean, it's, we all go through ups and downs emotionally and how we feel. So, again, I can see somebody who's maybe a little bit upset or a little bit depressed as opposed to somebody who would be perhaps unstable,
Right. Yeah. And is
Um,
there a duty to tell the person or to tell someone else if you see something really quite significant? I'm talking about you've worked on a case with Ian Brady, haven't you?
well, that was a television. That was a television thing,
Mhm.
and I'd love to say, oh yes, I discovered Ian Brady. And he was a prolific letter writer, which
Mm.
I don't think many people know. And he was also actually, quite chillingly highly intelligent, and he wrote a lot of letters before he was caught, but also from prison and everything else. And they had me on this documentary called Becoming Ian Brady to look at his handwriting to try and give another insight into his personality and what made him the person he was. And they had psychologists as well and people who knew him at the time, things. But because he was a horrific, even contrasting him to other mass murderers because of what he did with children, horrific. But it was, to me, the most unexpected thing was how normal he was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But you've analysed a lot of historical figures, like from centuries ago, haven't you? Kings and
Yes, and I mean the nice thing about looking at historical documents is that I can't be sued or had up for libel or anything else because once a person's dead, that's sort of it. Yes, I have, and I've written a book called Reading Between the Lines, and that has got some historical characters in as well as more up to date,
yeah,
and
okay. But
also
it's
how to analyze your own writing.
right. I guess if someone like me were to ask you to analyze my writing, and actually I know you did when we first met quite a few years ago now,
Yes,
online, I think it was during COVID actually, wasn't it? But
yes.
so if you saw something like a tendency that was really worrying, would you tell me?
It would depend on why you're employing me.
Right.
If you were employing me because you wanted to know absolutely the insight. I mean, it would depend if it was relevant insight into yourself, or if somebody was employing me because they wanted to know whether you were the right person for their company. Yes, but I mean, if I was being employed to look at your writing just for a bit of fun or entertainment purposes, then no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say it.
But can it be used as a form of sort of getting to know oneself in a more spiritual way?
Well, absolutely. No, no, no. I do that quite a lot. Yes,
Mm.
people want their handwriting analysed because they want, a better insight, or they want what they feel that they're good at or not good at confirmed by
Right.
third party, or maybe they would require career guidance, whether it's at the beginning of their um, adulthood or whether they've been made redundant at the age of 50 and needed, some advice as to what they
Mm.
should do.
And in those cases, is it like for better or for worse? You've asked, I'm going to give it to you, unless it's a physical health thing, as you mentioned.
Well, yes, but I mean, when I look at the writing, I can see how sensitive somebody is and what they're like. So, I need to be able to use that same skill as to be able to know what to say and what not to say to that person.
And how to say it, I suppose.
And how to say it, yes, and how to say it.
Yeah. But I guess if someone knows they're writing for you to analyze, does that change things?
Um, yes, I mean it can do because it can slow the speed down because they become more self-conscious. And one of the things that if somebody says, "Oh, what shall I write?" I would never recommend them to copy a poem or piece of text out because that slows your writing down if you're copying it. So I just, I'd want something very bland like what you had for breakfast or what your journey was like or nothing personal, nothing that I can glean anything from, but just something from the heart, you know. So yes, it can, but I mean, you know, when I'm looking at somebody's handwriting to see whether they're right for the job, you know, the company invariably says, why do you think you're right for the job? So, you know, it's probably something that someone's almost rehearsed in their mind, but I'm not interested in reading the content. In fact, sometimes it's in a foreign language anyway, and I only understand English. So that's fine, doesn't matter.
I mean, it really does feel like it's, you know, it's more than a science. So is it another form of psychology, essentially? Is that what we're saying?
It's an inexact science, and it is absolutely another form of psychology. Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay. And how have you found that people's handwriting has changed with the advent of like the digital age, basically? I mean, I know it's been around for a long time, but you know, everything is now on email and people aren't
I don't think people's handwriting has changed. I mean, what has changed is that we don't write letters to each other very much anymore, but we do still write. And I mean, what I find quite you know, quite good is that actually a younger generation, my children's generation, certainly my daughter who's a creative, they're actually writing more, and they journal and they keep diaries, and they write creative thoughts and notes down. And I think it's actually my generation that writes less.
Oh, that's interesting. I can understand that though.
The sale of notebooks, by the way, went up during the pandemic and has remained up. It's just that we're not writing letters to each other anymore, which I think is a shame.
It is a shame. What I love is I'm seeing a lot of people writing handwritten thank you cards after a dinner or something, which didn't happen. Well,
but that's good. I'm actually not seeing that so much.
Is
Really?
that
I need to change my friends, frankly.
But aren't your friends terrified to write you anything?
They don't care. No, honestly, they don't. I think most of the time they don't, because I don't have any other friends who are graphologists, and in fact, I just don't mix with other graphologists. I mean, you know, there aren't that many of us, and because you know, I'm quite a private person anyway, and I'm but I'm quite ambitious in my career, so I don't really want competitions. I don't mix with anybody else. No, I think my friends I think they forget what I do, you know, so they just write me a letter, and you know, it's fine. So
oh, that's okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that it's not like a complete lack of Christmas cards or anything like that. Yeah. But I know how it could be. You know, I'm a wine writer, and no one brings me wine when they come around for dinner.
Don't they?
Get a lot of no, because they'll think I'll judge their choices, which is
really, I think the problem is that people worry about being judged.
I know.
I mean, yeah.
I know. Well, I used to. I do a lot less in my dotage. So
yeah.
So tell us more about your book, Reading Between the Lines. What else can we see in that?
Okay, my book is not intellectual tome. It's for everybody from aged, I don't know, 8 to, I know it sounds a bit ridiculous, 8 to 80 really, to look at their own writing and the people that they, you know, live with or work with, or would like to live with or work with, and get a little bit of an insight into what they're like. And I mean, it's written in a fun but informative way. And at the end of each chapter, there's a little test for you to do to see, you know, how well you've picked up the things that I've been trying to teach you. And then it's interspersed with samples of writing of, as I say, people who are quite well known things, whether it's royalty, dead or alive, or you know, I suppose celebrities, for want of a better word. But when it comes to publishing something, if you found some handwriting of John Bon Jovi or whatever, and you sent it to me, I'm very happy to tell you what it's like. But if I published it, then and published what I said about it, then that goes into another legal domain. I mean, I did analyze the handwriting of Meghan Markle with respect to that letter that she wrote to her father, and that was, so I was part of the court case, actually, to be honest, with the Mail on Sunday. That's, that was very grey area. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again, because I mean, it's fine. I mean, I feel completely justified in what I said, especially now we're a few years past that. But yeah, it wasn't great for me at the time,
I bet that must be tricky. Oh my gosh, I wish I could ask you all those questions, but I won't. Obviously, you won't be able to tell me anyway.
Well, it's all on the internet if you want to look it up. So it's
right. Well, let's go back to your book again. So,
okay.
So your book is actually it's a really great place to start to really get a handle on what it's about and how to do it as a first step if you wanted to dive into it. But what a fun thing to do with friends as well. Get them to write you something and not tell them why, and you can get this insight into this whole world.
Well, exactly. Do you want to see a copy of the book? Should I just bring it to you?
Oh yeah, well yeah, show it up.
So sorry, I should have done this earlier. So here it is. It's like yellow. Makes a great Christmas present, by the way.
It does.
So yeah, look, each chapter has a different thing, like how to look at the pressure of your writing, or the size, the spacing. I mean, interestingly, I didn't self-publish this. It's published by Quercus, and you can get it at Waterstones, other bookshops, or Amazon. But there is a chapter which I think is the best, and I think it's what people enjoy the most. And it's hang on, let me just find it. It's all about red flags. It's all about what to look for, the bad things to look for. I mean, obviously there are a few killers and things, but you'd be unlucky to meet one, obviously. But it could happen. But my publishers at the time, and Quercus, if you're listening to this, I don't know what you were thinking about, they said, oh, don't bother doing that chapter, or we don't. And I knew instinctively, I said, no, that will be the best chapter. So I would like to write another book just on red flags, just on how to avoid the psychos in your life, whether you're living with them, working with them, or
or about to marry them. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Instigate the love letters and see what happens.
Well, if you get a love letter, it's probably worth keeping on to the person, isn't it? I mean...
True. Yeah. Very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless they've done it under extreme. No.
Well, unless it's been written in your own blood, in which case.
Yes. Is there a chapter on that?
That's the book number 2.
Yes. If you have something written in human blood, it's probably. Crikey. So where else can people go to learn more about this? What if they really want to sort of dive in and study it?
Okay, so there are far more ways of studying it nowadays, but I do run workshops as well, which I've started to do quite recently in my own home, which is like great fun actually, and small number of people over a weekend, and you will come away hopefully with a lot more knowledge. So that's actually how, as I said, that's how I started on a doing a workshop, and that's what really got me inspired to want to know more. So I think that's the best
and way. People can find you at
emmabache.com. And yep, and there's also a link on that. I do very little mini analysis, which is just like a couple of paragraphs for the price of, well, I could say a coffee. Obviously it is more than that, but no, not that much. These days.
Coffees are
a very very small amount, but I do reports for other people, which is quite a good Christmas present or birthday present. Or
yes, absolutely. Yeah, I know a few people who would be very interested in that this year actually.
And I do one-on-one consultations as well, either over Zoom, or if you live in the London area, we can get together.
And are you active on social media as well?
I'm pretty active on social media. Well, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and everything else. I'm probably not as good as I should be on social media, and I definitely should be doing more podcasts of my own and that sort of thing, which I need to get into. But it's I just feel as I'm just slightly too old, like by about 100 years, but which is a shame because I just need to sort of get over that.
Oh, I don't think so at all. It's because you've got the gravitas and you've got the experience, and
I've
that's.
got the gravitas and the experience, but I don't have the technical know-how. But I just I just need to get over that.
Is there anything else we haven't mentioned that you think people absolutely need to know about graphology?
Well, the things that people say to me is, what can you see? And I think I've covered that. I can honestly see most things about the person, but what I can't tell is how old somebody is, because sometimes the writing can be quite shaky, but it can be written by a young person or vice versa, and that's means something different. I can't tell the sex of the person. I mean, obviously we're going into a whole new realm of how many genders are on it, but I cannot tell whether somebody's a man or a woman. Okay, I really can't, because we both have we have masculine and feminine traits, and I can't tell. Although I can tell sexuality generally, but that's a different whole thing. And I can't tell whether somebody's right or left-handed, which could be relevant because 90% of us are right-handed, but the 10% who are left-handed can hold their pen sometimes in a different way, which would mean that they're more likely to have a left slant than somebody who's right-handed. So, and I can analyze other people's languages, but I'm looking to see how much a person has deviated or not deviated from the copybook style, which could be different if you learnt to write even in France, especially in France, as opposed to the UK. But I am I adjust my analysis for that. So.
And what's your favorite area in graphology to work in?
Difficult, really. I mean, I do enjoy the forensic side, because actually we haven't talked about that, but because I do work for lawyers and security companies, not so much the police, to see whether somebody's forged something, although I'm not a qualified forensic analyst. Sometimes I'm used before somebody takes it to court or whatever, and I enjoy that, but it's not without its risks, because if somebody comes to me to say, has this been forged, or on a different thing, is some criminal profiling, somebody will want me dead at the end of it.
That's
So
quite
it's
intense.
not, so it can be, it's but so parking that sort of slightly risky area, I really enjoy doing keynote speaking and after dinner speaking. I enjoy doing it because I can do it quite well and I don't get nervous about it. And I quite like working with an audience, because my talk's quite interactive, and it
Yeah.
can be quite lucrative, to be honest.
Well,
So
especially, yes, the after dinner speaking and things. So
yes,
when you do those, when you do speaking, do you also ask for samples of handwriting as part of that?
can do. If that's what they want, I do. And if there's time, absolutely I do. And if there's somebody who's heckling in the audience, I would definitely do their writing, which is always,
Of
it's
course.
always a big mistake, by the way. Don't heckle me, because honestly, you'll come off badly. It's just not worth it.
I can't imagine how you'd heckle during a talk about graphology.
Oh, no, honestly, you do. You just, it's fine. In fact, I sort of quite enjoy it. So, no, the heckling it doesn't always happen, but
Mm.
there'll always be somebody who puts their hat and say, "Oh, I think this is a load of rubbish" or whatever. And
Right, I guess.
that's
Uh,
fine.
where are you based?
I'm based in Chiswick, W4 in London, West London,
Mhm.
but I do travel, obviously in the UK, and I do travel abroad as well, time to time. And I've just recently come back from San Francisco, working for a big AI company.
Ah,
I know, which does seem slightly at odds with what I do, I have to say, but so I was analyzing the personality of the top CEOs that have come for this big AI conference.
oh wow. Are you allowed to say anything that you noticed?
Um, well, I think so. I mean, I think I can probably say I was working for Salesforce. I mean, it's fine. I can't mention the individuals, but they were all leaders in their field, and there are, well, there should be particular qualities of it, but everybody has their vulnerabilities, whatever they earn or whatever their position in a company. And incidentally, men still outnumber women by far too much, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me. Interesting, though, that you can see those insecurities through the writing of these big CEOs.
Yes, and a lot of them have much more fragile egos than other people.
Oh, there's so many people I want to send your way.
Oh, well.
maybe we shall. What I'm thinking is, once Flock and Hive has been going for a bit, we'll be doing workshops, and so I would love to be part of one, and I'm sure people listening will want to as well. So listeners, let us know if that's what you'd like to do as well. Yeah, we'll certainly think about that.
Actually, what I would like to say is that I think analysing people's character through their handwriting. I mean, I'm not obsessed with handwriting, but I am obsessed with literally reading between the lines and understanding what people are like beneath the surface of superficiality or social norms or whatever. And I think as a form of psychology, and especially when it comes to recruitment or just self-awareness, this is a method that people can't hide their true self from. And I think actually with the advent of AI and social media and all of us thinking how important it is to have as many likes as we do from Twitter and everything else, actually getting to the core of the personality and getting to know what people really are is more important and will become more and more important as we hide more behind a facade of nonsense, really.
Yeah. Has this changed your writing, knowing all of these things?
Well, no, not really. And on that note, I have got, and I'm not interested in how pretty somebody's handwriting is, by the way, because they go, oh, my handwriting's terrible. Or I get people who've got a very calligraphic style, maybe like Meghan Markle or whatever, or other people, and they go, oh, yes, well, I've got very... Actually, it doesn't always have a great analytical sort of result for them, because somebody who takes a lot of time and care over their writing might not be as spontaneous as somebody who has messy writing, too messy on the other hand, they might be hiding behind. But my own writing is shocking, and I can't even read it back myself if I wait longer than about 2 minutes to read it back. So yes, and because I don't mix with other graphologists, I don't have to be analysed by anyone, but I'm pretty sure that if I was going up for almost any job, I wouldn't get it if it was looked, which is why I work on my own as graphologist.
My goodness me. Oh, gosh. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your honesty. This has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for coming on. Well, I will be putting all your information on your page on the website, of course.
Lovely. Thank you.
And I very much hope we can speak again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Helena. It's been great.